I mean, let's do a podcast.
Let's do it anyway.
Fuck
it.
Woo, fuck it. Welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. We are in work trainer mode going over modalities of a large event that we're about to put on with over 400 hairstylists currently inside my DKW Styling Academy, which we officially have a list, but we're still building it. So stay tuned for more details on that. We have so many people that reach out. They're like, hey, I'm in New York. Who's here? Hey, I'm in here. Who's here? And I've had my brand going for 10 years, but I was like, and I tried to do a certified list, and it didn't work. It didn't represent my brand of where I wanted it to be, and that's why we created the Academy. It's a year-long program with both virtual and in-person training. Like, they have homework, they have stuff they have to pass off. Like it's like the real deal. So, anyways, we're
to be clear, when she says it's still building, it's already built and done.
No, that's
the licensed artists are
the Academy
putting their
is done.
own.
But like,
the licensed artist map is done.
It's done, but we're
the
adding,
artists are now inputting themselves on the map.
We're getting them all loaded up on the map. They're getting all loaded on the map because I'm like, eventually we'll have quite a few on there. Right now, there's
quite a few on
there.
There's
quite a few on there, but we're gonna make it even bigger. Woo!
Are you okay?
I'm a little loopy. I'll tell you why in a few weeks.
I can tell that you're loopy.
You know what? Every week I'm like, what do the students want to hear?
You know, I
have two ideas. What's your idea?
I have two things.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the biggest one, and that one is listening to your intuition.
Ooh, mine kind of falls with that.
Because I just know there have been times in my life where something in me is screaming. It's happening to me this week. I
thought you were going to say right now. I'm like, what is it?
This I won't talk publicly about, but there's something that is screaming.
You do need to tell me something privately, because the other day you're like, can I ask you something? And I was like, I hate when you ask, why do you frame it that way? I'm like nervous all day. I'm like,
you shouldn't be. No, you shouldn't be. Well, but that's honestly, it falls right in line with this, where I thought something, like something happened that I saw that like kind of, normally I feel like I would have brushed it off, but like I haven't been able to, where it's almost like, it didn't like get in, but I'm like,
it keeps coming up.
Keeps coming back, and I'm like, something's wrong. I can feel it. Ooh. And then I talked to my mom about it, and as I'm doing that, I'm like, like it just, I can't let the feeling go.
A little bit.
And here's the deal. I have no proof. And that's, I think, what the hard thing is, that so many times, like, we feel something, we hear something, like, where you get just a feeling.
You know what, though? You do have to follow your intuition, because there's been so many times that I give people the benefit of the doubt, and it fucks me over.
And I feel like, and that's, I think that's the hard part. And I'm someone, so here's once again, I'm not religious, but I'm very, very spiritual. And here's kind of the beliefs that I was grown and like raised with, that everybody has that voice and intuition. Mm-hmm. Every single person does. It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. Everybody has that voice and that thing that speaks to them. But I feel that the more you push it away and you're like, no, that's crazy, I'm crazy, it doesn't make sense. Then it stops.
You stop getting that voice.
It goes away.
Yeah, totally.
It gets quieter.
We talked about that in church, actually.
Oh,
so I know you're not churchy. I'm not really churchy either. I grew up Mormon and was like, I don't get it. And then when I was an adult, I was like, why am I still doing this if it's not something I'm totally in?
Yeah. And that's what I think. It's that the more you push it away, or the more you almost tell it like, that doesn't make sense. Stop it. No.
Yeah.
I feel that voice gets quieter and quieter and quieter.
It dims.
And then it goes away. Mm-hmm. And so I feel I teeter on the opposite side, where I hear it and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I feel, because I never want to be like, there's no way. So when I had a feeling the other day, I kind of sat there, and like I ended up like going home, working from home, because I was like, something's just off. And I sat there and I was like, okay, I hear you, I see you. Thank you for whatever message this means. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, maybe it's just to bring awareness to something that you're not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You never know, it might lead to a different path. But
yes. And I could, and I want to talk about that, because I feel like so often artists come and they're like, I want to be in the salon, but I don't. And I feel like there's, I should go, but I don't know. Maybe I should stay. I feel bad. I don't. And I'm like, you already know what you should do. Maybe in the moment it doesn't make sense, because people are like, but if I leave, I might lose some clients, and then this, it doesn't make sense.
It's so funny whenever I talk to artists and I'm like, well, tell me what's going on. And they'll literally list like A, B, C, D and all these problems. And then they'll answer their own problems. And I'm like, I'm like, well, good talk. It looks like you know exactly what you need to do. And they're like, I know. And then the next step is like, hey, I'm going to give you permission. You know what you need to do. I was your sounding board. I'm just validating everything you need to do. You just answered all of your own questions and went in this really interesting loop.
Yes.
Now go do what you need to fucking do.
And then I think even the hard part is sometimes doing nothing, which sounds odd, but you know, and I'm going to...
Sometimes you have to do something just to clear your conscience. You're like...
Oh, sometimes you have to do something, and I'm going to use a great example. So a few years ago, we had someone on the team, and when this person was brought onto the team, I was not on board. I remember walking with Garrett through Dana Point, probably walked for an hour, and I was like, I have no proof. I'm like, I don't.
That's what's hard to make a decision when you have no proof.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, I have literally sat here and cross-checked myself. Like, am I stressed about this person? Am I jealous of this person? Am I worried about my position of like what's happening? And every time I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. And inside it was like just a feeling of like, this isn't right. This person isn't right. Don't trust this person. And I felt, and I said it out loud. And then it was kind of met with like it might just be you kind of like scenario. So I'm like, hey, maybe it is just me.
You felt like it was just you?
No, that's what Garrett kind of met me with that. Not that. It was like a thank you for your feelings, but it's a you problem kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Which is okay. And I get it. And I even said, I have no proof. You're fine. But I even said like, I don't have proof to my feelings. I have nothing to back it up. This person, in all technicality, has done nothing wrong, but I can feel it in my bones that something isn't right, and I just don't trust this person.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I was right. I mean, it took about 2 years, but I was right in the end.
I think I feel that in people, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm like, no, it'll go away. And a lot of times in the past, the problem, it keeps like magnifying to the point where I'm like, you saw this coming, so your only realization is to just take accountability that you didn't act sooner.
And even in moments like that, because yeah, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes I'm like, if I give you the benefit of the doubt, that's shutting down my own inner voice, and I'm not willing to do that.
There's certain people too that I like. I always tell people like my friends and my family are like an onion. Like there's different layers to my relationships. Like
I totally get that.
Really, there is. Like there's people in my family, like you. I'm like closer to you than I am like a lot of my brothers and sisters. Like seriously, you know what I mean?
We're together all the time.
Yeah. So I'm just saying like I'm very like cautious who I let in my world. I've always been that way, but then like the more success I have, it's just like be careful with who you like affiliate with even. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, like I don't want to come across guarded, but also I just like there are layers to your levels of friendship, and some people come into your life and like I like really connect with them, and I'm like we're gonna stay connected in some shape or form, like probably for a while, like you know what I mean? And then there's some people I'm like I you know when I don't care about someone because I don't remember their name. And that I sound like such an asshole, but I'm like it could literally, I could be like, what? That guy's still here? Like, I'm like, that's cool. And not to sound like an asshole, I'm like, good for you. I thought you'd make it 6 months. You're still here. Yeah. But there's like certain people I'm like, you're not long-term to me. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I don't know. And even I've had to like, it hurts the worst though when you let somebody into your onion, into your circle of friends, and you feel so burned. You're like, yeah, really? Like you were like, I trusted you. Like I feel like I'm like a really nice person, but when I let people into my circle because it's not a very big circle and then they screw me, I'm like, I got to really exercise some forgiveness here because I just feel so burned. I'm like, but then I'm like, I can't hold on to these grudges. Like it's affecting me. At some point I have to like kind of just let it go. You know what I mean? And not hold such a grudge.
Being the bigger person is hard. You know, growing up, I was a grudge holder to the extreme. Ooh.
I don't hold grudges.
I don't now.
Yeah, I don't, but I kind of just am like, whatever. Like people in my past where I used to be like, you're fucking dead to me. I'm kind of like, if I saw you in the store, if I saw you, because I don't go to the store ever, but I order my groceries. I don't know why I'd be at the store. But if I walked past you, I would say, hello, how are you? Like I wouldn't like side eye you and be like, ugh. I would just be like, how are you? Good to see you. Like I wouldn't be, you know what I mean?
So that used to be me. I wouldn't side eye, but for me, and this took a lot of like growth and getting older and just growing out of it and realizing that, holding a grudge against someone was actually more damaging to like my soul than it was to theirs.
Totally.
And I'm not willing to do that. So, but that was me. Like if you reached a point with me when I was younger that like you're dead to me, I could look through someone. Like you could be standing there and it would be like you didn't it's a blurred spot where you stand. It took a lot for me to be like, you know what? It's okay for people, like you said, to come in and out of your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. And sometimes just because people leave, it doesn't make them bad, them right, you wrong.
Everybody's
you
got a different
wrong,
path.
right. Yeah, and that's okay. So now I feel I've really tried to leave everything, anytime people come and go, very amicable, or even I try to address it before it gets to that point.
Yeah.
But you know what I've realized? It is, and I don't know why I realized this the other day, it's really hard for me to trust people who aren't willing to speak their own truth.
Yeah, and you know what, that I agree with you. And I think that if you're like an authentic person, people trust you more. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They're like, okay, like she backs up what she's saying. And even down to something as stupid as like, I don't consider myself an influencer, but we joke around when we do our photo shoots and we're like, oh, we're just total influencers. But I realize I don't have a huge following. I have a small following, but I'm actually a pretty big influencer in the sense of those that align with me, whether it's like students or people that actually do follow me. If I recommend something or say this, like they trust that like it's going to be a good product, or they trust that like, hey, that's the direction that I want to go. You know what I mean? So in some way I have to like understand like we do influence, but it's because I feel like I'm very authentic, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just going to promote something I don't like. Like I don't care. There's not enough money in it for me. Like I just don't care. Like, and that's why I've never really considered myself an influencer, because I'm like, you sold your soul. Not really, but like I get it. It's the job and whatever it is. But I just feel like I can't promote or care about, like even like we're creating a wet line, a shampoo and conditioner line. And they're like, here, we have these private labels, just slap Isla label on it and sell it to your students. I'm like,
Ew.
absolutely not. Like I want this shit made from scratch. Like I don't want my name on something that I don't 100% stand by. And that's how we even created like the hairline. And I feel like I'm kind of getting off topic, but just like going back to like feeling like I have to feel like I'm in integrity with something in order to like really promote or pitch it.
Well, and I feel like if someone asks you a question, like let's be real here. Being honest is actually very difficult. It's easy but hard. Like I feel like once you're in the habit of just being honest, it's a very easy habit to have. Like my feeling on myself is my honesty I don't think I'm too honest. I don't think there's such thing as too honest, but I think my honesty can get me in trouble. Where sometimes I'm like, I don't agree, I agree, or hey, like you said that and that was like a bitch thing to do, like you hurt my fucking feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also think it's very difficult if someone asks you a question that requires you to maybe have that moment of hard honesty. If I know someone can't be honest with themselves, like if you're in a marriage and you're not happy, or you are upset with someone at work, or you're pissed at your neighbor, whatever it is, if you don't have it in you to be honest with yourself of where you stand in life.
Yourself. Yeah, too.
Yeah. If I know you can't be honest with yourself, I don't at that
Expect
point
you to be honest with others.
No, and at that point, I truly don't trust or believe what you say to me, because if you can't be honest to yourself, there's no fucking way you can be honest with me when I'm asking a question.
Oh, there's something that was so relevant to what you're saying that I wanted to share, and I forgot.
I said something about being honest with yourself, and you go, ooh, yeah, that's good.
That's good. Being honest with yourself.
It is. And I'll say honesty with yourself is really difficult.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Nailed it.
So sometimes I think, like, I remember when I didn't like my husband, and I was like living in Utah, and it was like the perfect Mormon couple, and like we had 2 kids, and like we were just happy, and I was like, oh, I just did all the checklist shit, and I was like, I don't want to air my dirty laundry, which I still agree. Like, don't air all your dirty laundry.
Calm down, man.
Calm it down. However, if your story can help liberate other people, share it. Like, honestly, like, you fucked up. Like, you put your head in the sand. You pretended like you were happy and you weren't. Like, don't tell me you didn't see that shit coming. Like, take accountability. And for me, like, I was like, okay, like in my life, in my marriage, everything I experienced, I was like, well, I can keep my head in the sand and save face and be like, I didn't see it coming. Or I can like be like, you know what? Let's look at the little things that happened that I wasn't honest with myself.
Yes.
And that maybe I wasn't fucking happy and I was caught in the story of being like a young, married, 2-kid, perfect family. Let's have a real fucking honest conversation. Like, yeah, the Range Rover was real cute till we fucking lost it all. Right? And then it's like, we have nothing. And I'm like, oh. And I'm
Now
like,
it's a
yeah,
problem.
it's a problem. And I could have probably gone and married another guy, whatever, like successful, whatever.
See, Garrett, no.
Bye. I don't know. What I'm saying is, like, I kind of decided, I'm like, you know what? Like, quiet little shy Danielle, like, I'm going to use, I have nothing else to lose. I was like, I'm at rock bottom. I'm like, I'm leaving my community. I'm leaving my church. My husband cheated on me. I have no fucking money. I'm a hairstylist. I'm a fucking hairstylist. Like, I got nothing to lose. And I was like, okay, it's time to start hustling and start being really honest with myself. And as I started just sharing bits and pieces of my story and like being a little bit more vulnerable, again, not sharing every detail, but just allowing myself to be in this space of honesty, people began to trust me. And it could be something as simple as selling hair extensions, but because I shared this other vulnerable side of me, they were like, I'm a mom. I'm going through this pain. I'm trying to provide for my family. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
And it just was such a connecting, beautiful piece to like my story. And I started my brand saying, again, being like, not even talking about marriage, divorce, whatever. I started my brand by getting on YouTube and being like, and this is before like people were not doing this. Like they were getting on with like the fancy lights and they were like, oh, I'm just so like, there wasn't like Instagram versus reality. Like everything was like too glammed up. And I got on in my bathroom with my computer because I couldn't afford to hire any kind of editors. Put my computer up there, push play, didn't know how to edit. And I was like, hi. And I was like, I have toddler hair. I have the shittiest hair you've ever seen. It's basically a mullet. And I just started talking and people, I think it was like a breath of fresh air. And that's how I started to build my brand. So I always tell people, don't let honesty get in the impact that you might make with other people, whether it's in your family, your community, like whatever it is, like start talking about it. And the scariest people you're going to start talking about it with is your friends and family. But the minute you kind of get that noise out of the way, that's when you truly start to, you don't care. You're like, fuck it. Like I told my onion, I told the people in my onion, and now I'm going to go find other layers to my onion. And you start building yourself and you become like a different human being by a simple concept of being honest and using the concept of being honest to share your story and impact others.
Well, not only that, I feel that when you have the bravery, because truly it does take bravery to be honest with yourself. Once you have that and you're able to be honest with yourself about where you're at in life, whether it's your marriage, the relationship you're in, your kids, your job, whatever is making you happy, whatever is making you unhappy. If you are the cause of your own unhappiness and you've been pawning it off on other people, like that takes bravery to admit to yourself. But I truly feel that once you're able to do that, I feel like your intuition, it's almost like it like kicks back on and it's like, okay, let's do this. And maybe that's why for me, like I said, when I had like a feeling the other day, I call my mom first, like we're talking about it and she answers the phone and I go, Mom, I'm going to tell you something and I need you to tell me if I'm out of your
sounding board.
Yeah. I go, tell me if I'm out of line and tell me if I'm crazy. I might be looking too much
into this. What's your mom's name again?
Rosa.
Rosa, I need you to be real honest with us.
But, and I've done that. So where I was like, here's exactly what happened. Like I even told her, I'm like, here's exactly what happened, but here's my feelings on it. I said, am I crazy? And my mom was like, that does seem odd.
She's like, yes, Ani, but in this situation.
In this situation, you're normal. And that's why I told her, I said, I need someone who's not emotionally invested, who's on like, yes, like an outside sounding board who I know has no issue being honest, you know? And that put me in a place of like, okay, your internal, like something's happening.
Spidey senses are going off.
Your spidey senses are tingling and you're seeing something, whether it makes sense now or you're getting a feeling for the future or whatever. But that's why I feel that it is important to truly even just be honest with yourself. Because let's say, for example, like you own a business or you're in a salon and you're all of a sudden one day you're like, I don't think I should be here anymore. And you're like, no. This is perfect. It's great. I love it. And don't worry, I'm not leaving. That wasn't my spidey sense. But like imagine, but really like this happens where they're like, I don't understand.
If you left, you'd be like, I'm not doing hair anymore. I'm just going to do education. I'd be like, too bad.
If I ever left, I don't think I'd do hair anymore. Like, why would ever be a reason for me leaving here? But really, like I hear this from students where they're like, I've been in the salon for so long and I love it. And then one morning, it's like I woke up and I was like, I don't think I should be here.
You're and like, you were ignoring the signs, weren't you?
And then I'm like, well, listen to it. What's happening? What's been going on? Are you actually happy? Or have you also been like a cause and an indicator to the unhappiness or relationship breaking down?
I also think too, sometimes what was fine at the time when you started the salon, or we'll use that as an example, was great. And it was a perfect space. And maybe you outgrew it. And you could feel yourself growing. You could feel yourself getting stronger. And so you kind of kept, all of a sudden, these little things that have always been happening, you're starting to notice because you're becoming a different human being. So all of a sudden, you're like, I'm not okay with this. Your standard has gone up. Your awareness has gone up. And I remember, I remember telling Garrett at one point, we were in I don't know why I keep bringing Garrett in. Sorry.
He's your husband. This makes sense.
Yeah. I remember Garrett and I got in a fight years ago, and I looked at him and I just flat out was like, I will never fucking apologize for high standards ever. So if you can't get on board with me, figure it out. But I always felt so bad, like I was the problem and I shouldn't expect this. And yeah, I had to take some accountability and deal with my own shit. But I kind of got to this place. I'm like, stop making me feel bad that I was raised with abundance. Stop making me feel bad that I expect more in life out of myself and out of you. You know what I mean? And so I kind of think that as we grow as individual, we start to notice more things, which is hence why our circle gets smaller and tighter, because you only align with certain people who really think like you.
And then I think even sometimes you might align for a little bit and then you get out of alignment based on growth and honesty and intuition and accountability. I love that as well, because a lot of times artists are like, it's all her fault because she's a bitch. And it's like, well, what role did you play? Yeah. And that's where we're back to honesty. Yeah. You don't get to pawn something off on everybody else. And I learned that the biggest thing that I know, going into my 30s, is I'm perfectly okay being wrong. I'm okay being wrong.
Everybody's wrong.
Everybody is wrong for a lot of different reasons. But in my younger years, over my dead body was I apologizing for shit.
You're a little more stubborn. And then you realize...
Have you met me? Yes.
You realize in submission, you actually win. I think we're I was the same way. In my 20s, I was so stubborn. And then I was I'm actually losing by holding on to being so stubborn. So it's it doesn't really serve you.
No, I feel like I've learned to not only not hold grudges, but address things quicker. Yeah. If I feel, because once again, it's a feeling and intuition. Do I always have proof? No. But if I feel that something is off with someone that is, like you said, in your onion and it's close, I would rather sit down and be like, are we good? Yeah. Because something doesn't feel right.
I hate, being in that weird space. Because what happens if you're in that weird space, say you're really close with somebody and all of a sudden there's something weird. And this happened to somebody who used to be really close to me that worked for me. And all of a sudden it was I felt like we were so tight, and then I had the intuition, the spidey senses. I was like, something's off, but I wasn't a good boss to her or friend that I came to her and said hey, what's going on? I don't know if she would have told me or not, but who knows? But anyways, being in that space, we drifted apart, and then we drifted more, and then we drifted more, and we never had these tough conversations. And so when she left and everything that was going on and the backlash behind it, I was like, I knew it. I knew it for 6 to 9 months, but I didn't come and say, hey, how are you? What's going on? I was too far checked out.
Yeah. And I think let's even use that as an example, that had you knew deep down something was wrong, had you followed your intuition and just asked, then that would have been a little more accountability on your end. But like you said, I don't even know if she would have told me the truth. And then that's where it comes to that. You can ask all day long, but if someone isn't willing to be honest, at that point,
it takes kind of people. It's kind of like in a relationship. Literally, you can be that person, because people are like, how did you and Garrett work it out? I'm like, we both got to this place where we had to have real honest conversations, and both of us were honest.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, it takes two people. So somebody can have that sense and that intuition, and they can go to somebody, but if that person is so closed off, you can't force them, right? You can't.
Yeah. And I know, and you have to be okay with hard conversations like that. There's even a team member that we have, and something didn't get done with work, and I came back and I was like, what happened with this? Why was this not done? It was kind of like an oh shit moment. So a team member started working on it, started fixing it, and then I was checking in okay, it's been 10 minutes, where are we at? This is important, this is fucked. And then the team member was coming back okay, well, here I'm at. And I was like, well, send me the link so I can look at it. And when she came back to me, and this was months ago, she was like, well, why? Why do you want to know that? And I'm like, wait, why can't I see it? Yeah. So that immediately set me off wait a minute. That's a weird response.
Yeah, why would you care if you actually did it?
Exactly. So then her and I ended up having a conversation where I literally said to her, I go, you responding that way did not sit well with me, and here's why. And to me, at any way, shape, point, or time, anyone on the team could come to me and say, Ani, show me what you're working on. Show me what you're doing. Show me what you did with this. And I'd be like, okay, here it is. And would I question it? Yeah. Jeff, our CFO, will be like, Ani, where are we at with this? Or he'll ask me a question and I'll be like, well, here's your answer, but why do you want to know? Because I want to know why you want to know, but here's your answer. And so I told her, I said, that made me feel disrespected. It made me feel like you don't respect my position, our relationship, and I have a right to ask because you not doing it actually affects my position and my job. And I'm not going to get in trouble because you didn't do something. So I now have a right to ask because it wasn't done.
Right.
And her response to me, and this is relevant, she's like, well, I feel disrespected. Like, you don't trust me to do my job.
Yeah,
I go,
I could see that.
Yeah. And I go, but you didn't do it. So why would you didn't do it, you know? And so it came down to it. And she's like, well.
But she's like, I was going to.
Yeah. And she was like, well, I think you think I'm too stupid to do this. And I was like, I've never thought the word you and stupid together or dumb or not capable.
But you're very like timeline oriented.
Well, to me, it was already late. We're a week behind already. Now it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was interesting that I came across it very like dry of this was not done. It needs to get done. Where are we at? I want to take a look at it. And her response made me feel disrespected. Me asking those questions made her feel disrespected.
So both people were feeling hurt.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And it really came down to us talking and me being like, those feelings that you're having, and I will never tell someone their feelings are wrong. I think that's so rude. And I said, I'm like, I respect your feelings and thank you for sharing. From my end, I don't agree because I don't think you're stupid. I think you're brilliant. I think you're smart. You're amazing at your job. But I need to now check up and check in because just like you, if we're like Danielle, you know, if you don't check in and something doesn't get done, then it's also on you for not checking in. You're the owner. So I'm like, not only does that fall on your plate, it falls on my plate. So it was a moment of both of us being very accountable of I did not check in, you didn't do it. And then also being able to be honest enough with like both of our feelings are hurt, but let's figure out why, like the truth and honest why. And I've just learned like, if that's why I always say, if you can't be honest with yourself, I don't trust you to be honest with me.
I think when you can be honest with people, you can trust to me is like such a big deal, right? Yes. And I tend to be like, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. I'll tell you
with trusting people?
No. Well, I'll tell
being
you,
trusted.
No. I'll tell you what I'm the worst at. I'm the worst because I want to have control of everything, but I don't want to know every little detail.
That is hard. As someone who works for you very closely, that's hard.
So I have to trust my team so much because I have a vision. I very much am like the rudder of my company. Like I have a vision. I always want to say, we have weekly meetings all the time. We voxer and communicate all the time. And I never want to lose that. But at some level, like if I get too sucked into the details, but I'm not in the trenches and I don't want to be in the trenches, I have to trust my teams and my partners that they're doing all the extra shit. And it's hard. I have to like sit back and be like, okay,
calm down.
Calm down. Yeah. Okay. So like for me, it's like it's a double-edged sword because I'm like I want to be involved, but you guys are always like, how involved do you want to be? And I'm like,
my favorite response to you, I can always tell, but you know what? I think maybe it's just because I know you so well and I've spent so much time with you. I can always tell when you're hitting a little bit of panic, like is that because
I feel like all of a sudden I feel like the pressure comes back on me. I'm like, why are we launching? Why didn't this happen? What is going on? You know what I mean?
And you're right. The pressure will always be on you. It's your company.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because sometimes you'll be like, Ani, did this happen? I'm like, yes, Danielle. You're like, what about this? I'm like, yes. And you go, but did you do this? And I go, you know I did that. And that's offensive. You think I didn't. But at that point, by the time
I spiral real fast.
Yeah. And it's so, because to me, by the time I'm answering that way of like, how dare you think I wouldn't do that?
I know, but I do
say
it for
that
my own
all the
peace
time.
of mind. I'm like,
but you know what's so funny? I'm never actually mad nor offended. I just think it's funny because I can hear your tone through text of like, but did this, and I'm like, yes, you fucking psycho. It all got done.
Well, there's been a few times where things didn't go out. So I think I have a little bit of like paranoia. I'm like, but no, like it does. Yeah. It takes a lot of like, for me, it takes like trusting my teams, but like not like still being involved. You know what I mean?
And going back to like honesty and intuition, you know what? I would rather someone be upset with me for me being like honest and being like, this upset me, or I'm hurt, or this is what I'm sensing. I would rather someone be upset with me for that than look at me and think like I'm not trustworthy or I'm not being 100%.
And I think we get too in our heads about things. Like honestly, like we take one comment of like, you could say something and be like, you don't think I'm doing my job, you don't think this, and we like, I don't know if men do this, but women spiral. All of a sudden you're like, she thinks I'm dumb, ugly, my eyelashes suck, I'm a bad dog mom, and she hates my shoes. Because she just said I want salmon for lunch.
and that's why even with you, some days I've been like, you good? This is what I'm sensing. Are we good?
Sometimes I'm not good. Like
I know. That's the days where I ask, are you good? To be clear, anytime I'm like, Danielle, how are you? I already know you're not okay.
I know. I feel like I'm normally like such a chill, calm, collected person, so that if my tone varies a little bit, people are like, something's wrong.
I just feel like everyone should know at this point, by the time I'm asking, I'm only asking to allow you to either tell me yes or no, to be, I already know.
I'm glad you asked me, are you okay? Because if you were to come back and be like, why'd you say that? I'd immediately be triggered and be like, fuck you.
Why? Because I own the company. I can't say it. That's fucked.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. You guys, okay, seriously, what was our main topic? Trusting it's spidey senses for sure.
Yes, follow your intuition.
Yes.
And sometimes, guys, you have to work on yourself to be at a place to be honest with yourself so you can be honest with those around you.
Right. I also think I'm a big fan of like trusting your heart, but also logically listening to your head. I know there's like some people that are like, I gotta wait for a sign. I'm like, okay.
Well, a stop sign hit you in the face.
Yeah,
so.
I'm like, well, it's great to look for signs, but let's logically play out the scenario and make sure that this is a calculated decision that we're going to make. So I think it's important, literally, like listen to that intuition, but like your mind and your heart coexist and work together. Mm-hmm. So don't just listen to your heart, but also like logically don't shut your brain off either, right? Yeah. And I do agree, like I believe that everybody has the opportunity to get whatever you want to call it. I don't care if you're spiritual or
I say
whatever.
The voice.
You're the voice. Let's just call it the voice. Like what you have the ability to hear a higher source that will pour through you if you allow it to. Mm-hmm. And that's like one of the things, and I know you do it a lot as well. Like when we're teaching or we're doing podcasts, I physically think of it as something like I'm a funnel. What do you want the people to hear? Like literally, like that. I don't know why I'm like, okay, I'm open. And I almost like wait till I hear something and then it like channels through me and I'm like, that was so good.
That's it.
That's what they needed to hear. So I just encourage everybody, like, don't push that voice away, even if it feels uncomfortable. What is that voice telling you, and how can you implement that to get you ahead in life? So we're going to leave it at that. The one thing I want to tell you guys is education is sold out for the year. Like our small classes, we had so much fun. It was kind of a wild.
You know, we taught almost like 200 students.
Yeah, it was cool. Like California was fucking weird. Like stupid Newsom. Like it was still shut down forever. And so we did small classes. We are going to do a large virtual convention that's coming up for hairstylists. And this will be your last opportunity to learn natural beaded rose in 2021. Tickets go on sale July 4th. We always announce to our wait list first, and then it goes to our email list. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are not on the wait list, go to mbr.education.
Yes.
I said it right. I'm always like mbr.education.com. It's just mbr.education. You can enter your name on the wait list. You'll be the first to hear about it. It's going to be a good time. Every year, we have hundreds of stylists that come join us virtual, and I can promise you, even though it's virtual, it's not like any other hair event you've ever been to. So make sure you're on that list. Thank you for listening. Share it with your friends. Even if you don't do hair and you like this podcast, share it with your friends and let us know if you guys have any topics that you want us to discuss in the future.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.